Whenever I meet people, I always feel I'm meeting another human being. I never consider importance or rank or position or faith, different faith or different nationality. I simply look at you as a human being, another human being. I myself also, when I meet people, I never consider I'm Tibetan, something different from others or other people. Or I never consider I'm Buddhist, simply just human being. And I never sort of consider, when I sort of meet people, I am His Holiness 14th Dalai Lama. I never consider. Same human being. I have some reason to stress that humanity today facing certain problems which actually our own creation. Not on the level we are same human being and deliberately you see create some problem. No. Secondary level of differences. Different nationality, different races, different color, different family background, different faith. Then you see divisions come. That creates we and they. That's the basis of all these man-made problems. So we, all 7 billion human beings, have the common responsibility to create happier humanity, peaceful humanity, ultimately compassionate humanity. Make distinction, this and that, is hindrance for that. So we must emphasize sameness of human being. I always is talking or expressing, we really need sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. So with that, I have 3 commitments. Number 1 commitment, promotion of human deeper values. That's the ultimate source of individual happiness and also physical health. Sometimes I think people, and modern people, I think, consider source of happiness is money, power, and seeking happiness from outward, from outside. This is totally wrong. Pleasure or happiness or satisfaction and sort of suffering related with mind. So therefore, ultimate source of happiness within mind, not external. I often see the person who has a nice ring or some, I think some ornaments are there. Ornaments. Also the diamond ring. When you really feel unhappy or too much stress, then kiss the ring. Ring never show you affection. 100 times kiss, nothing. Or small cat or dog. If you really feel some uncomfortable feeling, then show your sort of expression. They may lick. They have no language, but simply physical sort of attitude. And cat, like that. So living being have the ability show affection. The material value, no ability show affection. So we need affection. When we're really passing through difficult period, someone come you, share your problem, and showing genuine sense of concern, and you feel, at least the short moment, you feel happy. Like that. So therefore, ultimate source of happiness within ourselves. That, I think, in modern time, we have to make effort, you see, to make awareness ultimate source is not outside, but within ourselves. That also not necessarily based on religious faith. Dogs, cats, no religion. And human being, very young age, no faith, no religious faith, no religious concept. Some scientists, they experimented. You see, some picture, like cartoon picture, show child age 2, 3, 4 years old. The cartoon shows some kind of, affectionate attitude. The child responds very happy. A cartoon shows some kind of negative child, little sort of, because of the reluctant or something like that. So that's the human nature. Our life started with human affection, particularly our mother. And after birth, a few years, the affection, mainly from mother and also father and some other friends, is crucial factor in order to grow properly, physical as well as mind. I think I'm quite certain, here, people, outwardly, everybody very smart, and also maybe try to show smart. Even though some worry or some stress here, you see, show nothing. So outwardly, everybody very smart. But there is differences in deep insight. Those individuals who received maximum affection from their parent, particularly from mother, and grown up that way, I think in deep insight, sense of security, safe, God. Oh, those people who at a very young age lacking that kind of affection, deep insight, some sense of fear, insecurity. So our life start that way. And then furthermore, we are social animal. Any social animal, mental level, emotional level, one sort of the mental attitude which bring together. That is human affection. Or even animal affection, love brings together. Anger expels away. Like that. So therefore, number one commitment is promotion of deeper human value. That's mainly human affection, human love. the way approach that or way to promote that, if we use religious sort of belief, very effective, very powerful, according to my own experience. It's Buddha's teaching, extremely helpful to strengthening these deeper human value. However, in the terms of for humanity, firstly, about 7 billion human beings or 1 billion non-believer. Then among the believer, many different traditions. Each tradition have sort of same potential. So if you use religious concept in order to promote these inner value, then since there are many different religions and difficult complications. So India's constitution itself is based on secularism because India is a multi-religious nation. So it is very practical. According to Indian understanding, secular is respect all religion. I think you know better. In the West, some of my friends, consider secular is something distance from religion or disrespect religions. So therefore, if we follow secular basis, the educating warm-heartedness, it can cover entire 7 billion human beings. So that's my number one commitment. And here we use the main reason or factor is scientific finding. Many scientists, now they realize through their experiment, more inner peace, calm mind, very good for our health. Agitated mind, very harmful for our health. So medical viewpoint also, now calm mind is very essential. So that's my number one commitment. Number two commitment, then I'm talking as a Buddhist monk. According to my own experience, I realize, and also you see, as a result of meeting with people from different spiritual traditions. What is it? So spiritual tradition. Among my friends, some really wonderful sort of people, like late Mother Teresa. Her sort of dedication, serving people, particularly poor people, needy people. And her follower also, you see, number of them really dedicated. So such sort of enthusiasm, such sort of determination come from their faith. Actually, it's very right. Serving humanity, helping humanity, humanity as a creature of God. So serving humanity, helping humanity is best form of serving God, offer or worship. So therefore, all major religious tradition is the same sort of potential. So, and also, you see, we need different religious tradition because among humanity, people who have different mental disposition. So we need different way of approach. Same goal to produce or to promote inner value. Try to make sensible human being, compassionate human being. So all major religious tradition, basically theistic religion non-theistic religion, when we look philosophy field, have big differences. But then, if you ask, what's the purpose of these different traditions, different philosophy? Same purpose, to bring firm conviction about inner value. So, okay. So therefore, it is very possible and necessary to promote religious harmony. India, I always telling, India is the example. All major religious traditions live together. Occasionally some problems, that's understandable. Some mischievous people among 1 billion human population, some mischievous, must have, should have. 1 billion Indian, not God or angel. Some people a little bit mischievous, so that's understandable. Overall picture of India, I think religious harmony, really wonderful, really wonderful. So, number 2 commitment is promotion of religious harmony. And then wherever I go, I always talk ahimsa and religious harmony. These 2 things are 1,000-year-old India's tradition. So I often see introduce myself as a messenger of India. Truly, I really carry this message wherever I go. Then 3rd commitment, I'm Tibetan, many Tibetan. They say, trust me. For example, at present, you see the Tibetan, there are people inside Tibet, sometimes they cannot express even my name. The difficult situation. But inside, they really trust me. So I have moral responsibility. Although political responsibility, since 2011, I completely retired. No longer any secular responsibility or political responsibility. We already achieved elected political leadership since 2001. Then I already some kind of semi-retired position. Then watch 10 years, and I developed full conviction. Now, Tibetan, at least the refugee community, you see, can manage themselves and elected their political leadership. So since 2011, I completely retired. However, we Tibetans have quite rich Buddhist knowledge, particularly Nalanda tradition, because 8th century, so at that time, one, I think, the greatest sort of philosopher, one bhikshu, Shantarakshita of Nalanda, he invited by Tibetan emperor, Chisung Tesen. So he introduced Buddhism, more kasota, systematic. So that's according to Nalanda tradition. So we are truly the student of Nalanda tradition. Over 1,000 years, till now, we carry rigorous study, at least 20 years, in order to become kasota. In order to kasota, sufficient knowledge about these things. Then there is no end for study of these things. We have over, I think, 100 volumes taught by Buddha, about 220 is a commentary wrote by mostly Nalanda masters. So altogether, 300 volumes, over 300 volumes. We usually study. So now my age, nearly 80, still I'm studying. So till my death, if my eye okay, then I will carry this study whenever I have time. So whole life remain like student of Nalanda. So therefore, I think Tibetan knowledge about the Nalanda tradition, as a result of a lot of sort of meeting or contact with Chinese Buddhist, Japanese Buddhist, Korean Buddhist, Vietnamese Buddhist, Burmese Buddhist, Thai Buddhist, and so on. If may I say so, when we met, we say our knowledge, not bad. Because you see, we have that kind of tradition, you see, seriously, rigorously study. Firstly, root text, learn by heart, memorize. Then each word explain, according commentary. Again, many commentary wrote by Nalanda masters, such as Shandadeva, Chandakirti, Dharmakirti, Dignac, these great sort of, masters, scholars of Nalanda. So each word explain. And then through debate, try to understand precisely every word. So therefore, I think now today, among the Buddhists, among the Buddhists of the world, I think we Tibetan Buddhists, I think we kept Nalanda tradition quite still alive. So I really feel it is really worthwhile to preserve. And the Chinese tradition also come from Nalanda. Tangsen, or these sort of great Chinese, the ancients or the masters, they learned in Nalanda, and they brought Buddhism to China according to Nalanda tradition. So now today, in China, over 400 million Buddhists. And many of these Buddhists really showing interest about Tibetan Buddhism. So therefore, preservation of Tibetan Buddhism, not only interest for Tibet, but interest for millions of Chinese Buddhists. And then also, now scientists, in over 300 volumes, Buddhist text, which translated from India, a lot of explanation about mind, about emotion. So I consider that a part of science. I usually call ancient Buddhist science, particularly science of mind. This, now over 30 years, I have sort of series of discussion with modern scientists or serious dialogue with modern scientists. Now it become very clear, many scientists really showing genuine interest. So they are very, very eager to learn from our knowledge about science of mind. So therefore, preservation of our culture, our knowledge, not only interest for Tibetan, but many Chinese, and also now, including some of modern science also, you see, in order to expand their knowledge, not only external thing, but inner world. The information from these texts is very, very useful. So my third commitment is preservation of Tibetan knowledge, which we learned from India. I always telling that historically, you Indian were our guru. We are Chela, as I mentioned earlier, since 8th century. The light come from India, reach Tibet. Then our knowledge, I think maybe with good brain of Tibetan. So rich tradition from Nalanda, rich place where people in cold climate, so the brain quite fresh. So goes very well. Very, very sophisticated Nalanda tradition. You see, reached there, we learned, and also you see, all these 300 volumes text or 300 volumes, all translated into Tibetan. So now today, as a matter of fact, best language to thoroughly explain about Nalanda philosophy, Nalanda sort of knowledge, Tibetan language is the best language. Not Chinese, not Japanese. Hindi also difficult. Sanskrit, that language. Like that. So therefore, and then environment, roof of the world, major rivers which cover from Pakistan up to China come from Tibet. So one Chinese ecologist, he described Tibet Plateau as sort of as a third pole because impact to global warming from Tibetan Plateau as much as South Pole, North Pole. So he described Tibetan Plateau is third pole. So preservation or special care, ecology in that land is not only concern for 6 million Tibetan people, but I think over 1 billion human life depend on these rivers. And the whole, I think, northern India, I think very much so depend, you see, those rivers which come from Tibet. And South Indian, quite independent, I think. Okay, self-sufficient. You come from South India or North? You? South. South India. Oh, then I have some special respect because I usually see telling, judging, you see, those Nalanda masters like Nagarjuna and Nagabhuti and Aryadeva. I think most of these brilliant sort of minded Nalanda masters, most of them come from South India. So sometimes I teasing, South Indian brain is something very special. Because always drink coconut. I also trying to take coconut as much as possible, but brain not much change. So that's the, I just also wanted to share with you, and not only share, firstly, we all same human being. Every human being, 7 billion human being, all should have responsibility to create better humanity, happier humanity. Humanity happy, happier, peaceful. Each individual get maximum benefit. If humanity remain difficult, distrust, hatred, anger, one individual cannot escape. So therefore, it is everybody's interest. So please, each of you, think seriously about these things. In whatever way, make some contribution to create better world. Is everybody's interest. Then religious harmony, as I mentioned earlier, India, 1,000 years, this tradition, still that tradition very alive. So now, in ancient time, wonderful tradition, just kept your own area, your own country. Okay, now something different. Whole world heavily interdependent, and the communication with the help of technology much closer, east, west, north, south. So India, sort of this kind of tradition not only ancient tradition, but very relevant to today's world, especially religious harmony. Very, very important. So each of you, whatever way, you must think, you must remember how I can make a contribution for promotion of religious harmony. Then also you see Tibetan problem. Actually, I usually call Tibetan problem, in a way, problem of India, isn't it? Firstly, ecologically also, you see, some dams, many years ago, 1960, some refugee from Uyghur area, Xinjiang, eventually we become a very close friend. So they come for the, Afro-Asian sort of conference, headed by Jayaprakash Narayan. So they come. So also, you see, they met me. So they told me, oh, in the future, there could be, you see, the Burma Buddha Kasota diversion towards north, like Gupi Desert, try to make Kasota green area. So at that time, I felt, that little bit of exaggeration. I felt that. So gradually, you see some because of the plan, dam, and also you're talking those some major rivers which towards south, you see, divert to north. So India, at least northern Indian, I think a large number of human beings, you see, their life depend on this river, this water, which come from Tibet. So you also have the right, you see, to speak, to express your concern, the preservation of ecology, like that. So that's all. Now question and answer. And any questions, and also some comment, also some criticism, and also some suggestions, most welcome. If someone is want to debate me, like many Tibetan sort of student, since young age, we trained debate. Although now quite old, so my brain not that much fast of moving, but I think still I can carry some because of the debate.
Dalai Lama, Your
Yes.
Holiness, thank you so much for your gentle training of the brain in the last 45 minutes. I just want to ask you about one small thing that you mentioned. You said that secularism is a value to be cherished for harmony in society. Just want to ask you, there is this, it is interpreted in two ways by tradition. One is that when we say dharm nirpeksh, dharm nirpeksh, which means that you are away, the state is away in equal measure from all religions. You are, you are indifferent to all religions in the same way.
Yes.
The other one is sarv dharm sambhav, that you are participating, the state is participating in every religion in equal measure. So, which is the one that you recommend? That the state should participate in every religion in equal measure, or should be should be distant from each religion in equal measure. What do you recommend?
My basic sort of approach or thinking is non-sectarian. Each religion, even theistic and non-theistic, fundamental differences in philosophical field, but we can learn from each other, enrich each other. Right? So, you should keep, I think better to keep close contact and learning from other traditions. It's very, very helpful. Not only closer relation, but also, you see, you can learn some useful experience or useful sort of thinking for your own practice. Very good. That's, I think, better. Remain a little bit distant. Then sectarian feeling, even among Buddhists, among sort of Muslim, Shia, Sunni, and among Christian, Catholic, Protestant, some other, like that. Among Hindu, any major divisions? No. Yes. Traditionally, you see, according to Tibetan translation, like the Aryadeva and also the Bhavavega, they thoroughly sort of discuss with different non-Buddhist tradition, mainly 5, Sangha, Jain, and some other, few more, Kasa, Vivashek, Mare, Chirabwa, Vishishika, and Chababa Kasa. So, in any way, like that. So now today, how many different philosophical views?
Well, there are
among the
different
Hindus?
philosophies, Shaivism, Vaishnavism. There are, but it's all comes together.
Yes, like that. Next question.
Your Holiness, when you had visited us at Raipur, and you had established the relationship with Nagarjuna, and you briefly mentioned
Yes.
about Nagarjuna, and you went in a cave and you meditated for some time.
Yes.
What were the feelings that you got, and can you tell us about the Madhyamika, what Nagarjuna had
Okay.
philosophized?
Nagarjuna, I think almost top scholars and practitioner of Nalanda. And I think 2nd century, 1st century. So we, in Tibetan tradition, Nagarjuna consider top most important, also the philosopher and his philosophy. Now, for example, his sort of concept about reality, external material reality, quantum physics, very similar. Actually, I'm often telling the Indian scientist, late Raja Ramana, nuclear physicist. Once he told me, you see, the quantum physics in the world are quite a new sort of concept, new finding. But in this country, he found almost 2,000 years ago, already developed concept of quantum physics. He found some of Nagarjuna's writing, he found there. So he told me like that. So Nagarjuna's, you see, concept, the Madhyamika philosophy, Shunyata, or Pattisamupanda, his sort of interpretation about Pattisamupanda, very deep, very deep. So me personally, since my childhood, as a childhood, my childhood, 15, 16 years, not child. And in any way, you see, the age 16, around 16, I developed interest. Then study, and also some sort of low-level meditation like that. Now over 60 years now. Recent years, real sort of deeper sort of feeling or experience. Very, very helpful. In the sense, reduce much sort of what's the negative emotion, anger, hatred, and then also desire, attachment. You see, much reduce. That's quite noticeably, quite noticeably. So, the text you see mentioned, all these destructive emotions come from ignorance, which completely sort of, distorted sort of view about the ultimate reality. So the concept of shunyata, according to Madhyamika philosophy, you see, explaining reality, such as quantum physics. If you investigate nothing, all, you see, the kasada, destination. That does not mean nothingness. Things are there, but not exist as appears. For example, another American scientist, Aaron Beck. A few years ago I met, and then he's still alive. Now his age over 90 years old. So recently I was in America. I went to his home and met, because I admire him. So according to his finding, few decades to his experience dealing with little disturbed people's mind. So he concluded, for example, when we develop anger, the object which we feel angry, that object appears very negative. But actually, 90% of that negativeness is mental projection, not reality. So this exactly Nagarjuna stated that. So this Nagarjuna philosophy, his teaching, very realistic, very relevant, at least for Buddhist, like me, follower of, student of his philosophy. Very helpful. One quite strange thing. First, I reach, that I can't remember the name, that place, one sort of ruined old sort of walls there. When I reached there, one what go conch, one conch there. I felt little strange. Then I asked the professor, professor who, historian, who explained these things. I asked him, can I, the Kishore is there. Can I sort of, take? He said, oh yes, no problem. Then I took that. And now still with me in Dharamsala. I consider there's some sort of, maybe too much superstition. I consider something good omen. Beside that, no special dreams, nothing. So my practice, of course, continuously. Then, one occasion at the Kasa Nagarjuna Kandra, near Nagarjuna Kandra, Kasa Amarbati. So I give one teaching, and before that execution ceremony, I give some explanation. This is some text which mention about Shunyata according to Nagarjuna. So when I explain, certainly my understanding, certain sort of the meaning, deeper level of the meaning of Shunyata, somehow, that very moment, some new understanding developed. That I felt, maybe some connection, the blessing of Nagarjuna. So after sort of visit, you see that cave, and I read Madhyamika Mulakarika, wrote by Nagarjuna. We read, and some meditation, like that. Very, very helpful. I remember lunch together, and then one morning, we said the garden, you together. That I remember. Thank you. And also, see, you mentioned about the patty rice. Oh, so utilize, so the certain sort of the method or something. The kasa 20 production can increase. So that I very much impressed. Now India, after all, farmland. Real transformation of India must take place in rural area. Not more buildings like Delhi or Hyderabad and Bangalore. When I first visited Bangalore in 1956, quiet place, clean. Now no longer clean. Lot of noise and lot of, So instead of concentrate these big cities, must concentrate in Kasa, rural area. I very much impressed Japanese farmers and also Taiwanese. In farm land, nice house with car, that's nice. So we should have that kind of sort of kasota development in this country. Farmers area, more sort of garden and hospital, mainly very important education facility, school and college and hospital. Then maybe some cinemas like that and a playground. I don't know whether we should introduce nightclub in this area. I don't think. Better none. Or shops, wine, I think much better less. So I very much sort of interest, you see, your explanation, how to increase production, rice, like that. Next question?
Your Holiness, is our ultimate goal compassion or dispassion? Because compassion still has an element of attachment to it.
No.
But is the goal finally to overcome that, to become, in fact, dispassion?
Compassion, two levels. One level of compassion, very much mixed with attachment. That's mainly biological factor. Even animals also have that kind of compassion. Now, the compassion which we are talking through education, through awareness, you see, that level of compassion develop further, use human intelligence. That is unbiased compassion. Previous one, biased compassion. So very much mixed with attachment. So therefore, the first level, low level of compassion, very much oriented about others' attitude. So that compassion extend or cover only your friend who shows you positive attitude. Towards stranger, not much. Particularly towards enemy who creates problem for you or harming you, you cannot extend that kind of compassion because it is biased, very much oriented about others' attitude. Now use human intelligence, reasoning, as I mentioned earlier, the warm-heartedness or compassionate attitude, not through training, not oriented about others' attitude, but being itself, human being or animal being, then your enemy, as far as the attitude is concerned, enemy creates trouble for you. Therefore, we call enemy. But as a human being, still they are human being, part of the 7 billion human being. So on that level, see, the sense of concern of their well-being can develop with help of human intelligence. So that compassion, unbiased, not oriented others' attitude, but oriented being itself, being real, being itself. So your enemy, so that kind of compassion can cover your enemy. Even more seriously, sense of concern of your enemy. For example, he or she took advantage on you. You remain honest, truthful. Some mischievous people take advantage. Then, sense of genuine concern about their wrongdoing. So, sense of serious concern about their well-being. That's genuine compassion. Now here we must make distinction. Action and actor. Person who carry sort of the unjust or wrongdoing. You need countermeasure in order to stop their action. Without sense of concern of well-being of the actor. Clear. For example, we practice that usually when we make the confession, isn't it? Confession. Oh, I did something wrong, now confess. Oh. So at that moment, we make distinction. You yourself as actor, and that wrong action as an action. So the actor now realize wrong action, so confess. So similarly, we can make distinction. Your enemy's action and enemy themselves.
Enemy as a person.
As a person. So keep sense of concern of their well-being, oppose their wrong action. Okay. So this only human being can do, not other animals. So biological factor, so compassion is common with certain social animals. You see, more or less, this is same. Like that. Some sense? You understand? Next question.
Your Holiness, what's your vision or the estimate of the future, maybe by 2050? Will the world be more peaceful or more chaotic?
Kasa? 2020. That entirely depends on us, on human being, ourselves. So that's why I usually make a distinction. Generation of 20th century, generation of 21st century. Now, 21st century, now only 14 years passed. Over 80 years, 80 years yet to come. So we have the opportunity or possibility, change future. Past, we cannot change. Sometimes I jokingly tell you, even God cannot change past. According to theistic religion, everything created by God, but past is past. Now, the generation of 21st century have the main responsibility to make certain effort with vision, wider perspective, and ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, consider 7 billion human beings, same humanity. Their interest is my interest. So therefore, fulfill because of my interest, we have to think well-being of others. So I always expressing, now very existing education system, very much oriented about material values. We are lacking education system, including inner value. When we talk about inner value, we immediately rely on religious belief. That's very good, but will not be universal. So only choice is secular ethics, based on through secular approach. That's the only way, only possibility. As we already touched, according to Indian understanding, secular ethics is basis of all major religious tradition. All major religious tradition talks about love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, these things. These are the secular ethics. Honest, truthful, like that.
Excellency, you spoke well about Tibet is India's problem. And you also said that there are ecological problems that is coming out of Tibet, dams, big dams. If you remember that Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his swearing-in ceremony invited Lobsang Sangye, the Chief Administrator of Central Tibetan Administration. Do you see that Indian government is going in an enhanced way to solve the problem of Tibet? And do you want to have any dialogue with India or China on this issue separately or together?
As I already mentioned, now I retired old person. So I think overall, India, I think now new government more assertive somewhere and wider contact. And also, it seems to develop a sort of personal, close relation with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This is a good start. You see, I think basically any man-made problem must be solved through mutual understanding, not through confrontation. What happened in 20th century? First World War, Second World War, Korean War, Vietnam War, all these try to solve something, but through confrontation way. Finally, violence. Even Afghanistan issue. President Bush, I love President Bush. I really respect as a human being. Very nice person. From first meeting, we immediately become very close friends. Some president, first meeting, a little bit distance. Second meeting, a little closer. Third meeting, closer, like that. President Bush, not like that. From first meeting. One I remember, you see, as usual, you see, when we said some cookies, then I just expressed, oh, which cookie is better? Then President Bush said, this is very good. Like that. You see, like, you see, union of old friend. That I love. Ceremonial, official, or more formal way, I don't like. Completely informal. As a human being, it's much better. When we're born, no one born with formality. When we die, also you see, no way to die formality. When we got sick, some pain, no longer any formality, crying, shouting like that. I think queens or kings, I think when they, you see, serious pains, I think on Kasuda hospital bed, I think same way. So much better, you see, we accept the reality. Acting like a human being is much better than artificial formality that I don't like. Some Japanese, you see, when we discuss or ask something, then they, whether agree or disagree, not very clear. I think you have experience. But since even Japanese say, I always see Kasu acting completely informal. So some of these Japanese, even sort of spiritual leaders, when I met, they acting like a human being, wonderful. So Japanese liberals, so the eyes, I think, to some extent, melted, or little cracks. One Japanese abbot, respected abbot, scholar. He wrote many books, great scholar. So one day, we met, and he frankly told me, we Japanese also used to recite one text, one sutra, heart sutra. He told me, every Japanese to recite that, but without knowing the meaning. He admitted. And my explanation is very, very helpful. So one old abbot, so I did not expect that kind of sort of admonition about their sort of kasuda, mandanga. Admit their sort of weakness or something. So like that. So I love Mr. Bush, really. But then the policy regarding Iraq, motivation is good. Try to bring democracy. And I think in some extent, I think liberate Iraqi people. But the method, use force. So after that event, another occasion, my meeting, I told him, I love you, I respect you, but some of your policy, I have some grave reservation. He laughed. So like that. So now, the only thing is, you see, no matter how difficult it is, must make effort through mutually sort of agreeable solution. For that, personal contact is very essential. So I think seems is a good start. And then the other side, Xi Jinping, also unlike the previous sort of communist leaders, he actually publicly expressed in Paris as well as in Delhi, he expressed for Chinese culture, Buddhism have great important role. So regarding preservation of Chinese culture, Buddhists should take more serious responsibility, he mentioned. These are quite new. So you see things, I think overall things, you see, I think people becoming more mature. That's my view. So we need more patience without losing determination, willpower, then I think things will change. Use common sense. There's no other alternative. These problems have to solve. Confrontation creates more problem. So only thing is through talk, through dialogue, isn't it? Like that. Next question.
Your Holiness, I'm a practicing Hindu by religion. Basically, to know more about what basically religion is, all religions teach that God is one.
What?
All religions believe and teach that God is one.
Oh, God. Oh.
Yeah, God is one. I'm not sure whether I should be asking this question or not, but since it came into my mind, so I'm asking. So,
Yes.
what is the basic difference that you see what is the basic difference that you see in being a Muslim or a Hindu? When both the religions preach that God is one, then what is the basic difference that you see in being a Hindu or a Muslim?
What is the basic, what did you say?
What is the basic difference that you see in being a Hindu or a Muslim?
I think I mentioned or not, the theistic religion, non-theistic religion, among world religions, two categories. One, theistic religion. That is the fundamental sort of faith is creator, God as a creator. Then, among Indian religion, Sangha philosophy, Sangha tradition, two parts. One, accept God, creator. One, no. So one part of Sangha philosophy, and then Jain philosophy, then Buddhist philosophy, no concept of creator. Buddha Shakyamuni or Mahavira not considered as a creator of God, but completely, just an enlightened person. Enlightened. That we call Buddha. Buddha means enlightened. So original Buddha Shakyamuni was ordinary sentient being. Then gradually, through training, eventually become Buddha, enlightened. So long, ignorance there is sentient being. Sentient being is all right. Once ignorance completely eliminated, that's Buddha's mind, enlightened mind. So then Muslim, among the ancient non-Buddhist sort of tradition in India, as I mentioned earlier, Sangha also there, non-theistic. So, but generally, according to the Hindu practitioner, they believe rebirth and the theory of karma. At the same time, ultimately, one creator, Mahabrahma or something. Mahabrahma or something. So, except you see both the rebirth and since karma theory there, so they also accept law of causality. Ultimately, some creator. So this within the theistic, again you see differences. Then Muslim, I think Zoroastrian, I think maybe 3,000 years old. Then Judaism, Christianity, Islam, I think more or less same root, all except creator. Different name, Allah, only one God, Allah. Christian, Trinity. Slight differences, but basically same. So, and then more detail, even within Buddhism, within Nalanda tradition, 4 major sects: Vivashik, Sodantik, Chitta Mantra, Madhyamika. And Chitta Mantra also is two two divisions.
Subdivisions.
Subdivision. And so, Sotantic
Sotantic.
also you see two divisions. Then Madhyamika also is two divisions. So suppose Nagarjuna sort of also the authentic teaching carried by Arya Deva and Bhuttapalita and Chandakirti. So we consider the commentary of Madhyamika Mulakkarika, commentary wrote by these sort of masters. I myself also see study, comparison, correct? Comparison.
Comparison.
Comparison. I found the Chandakirti's explanation. It's very sort of, very sharp, very deep, no contradiction. Wonderful. And actually, as I mentioned earlier, effect. Like that. Okay. So you see, there are differences, as I mentioned earlier. I think in a way, who creates Buddha? Who creates Mahavira? God. So these different religions, who create? God creates. So you see, except one religion and then against the other, it's actually against God's work. So it's much better, though theistic religious people. You see, single-pointed faith towards God, and then the difference of tradition, you see, should consider also, you see, God's creation. So there must be some meaning, must be some purpose and respect. That's much better. I think in some occasion, when interfaith sort of meeting, sometimes I frankly is telling, whether you like it or not, the different religious tradition will remain. Neither, no power eliminate other religion. So, whether you like it or not, these different religions will remain. So, logically, it is much better live harmoniously, mutual respect, mutual learning, much better. Even in political sort of field, after Cold War, you see, according to the reality, the concept of coexistence, isn't it? So among the religious people also, you see, should have some kind of coexistence of concept, much better. Like that.
Next question.
Thank you.
Yes?
Your Holiness, you talked early in your comments on how in the modern world we need to find happiness as a source from within, a simple and very powerful message, but for lesser mortals like us, perhaps very difficult to achieve. What advice would you have for us to be able to get to that state?
Krasa, did you saw knowledge?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the
Sure.
question?
You talked about how in the modern world we need to find happiness from within.
That's right.
A very simple and powerful message. And I was just curious to hear from you, what advice would you have for lesser mortals like us to be able to achieve that?
Not easy, as I mentioned earlier. Problem which we are facing. 7 billion human beings, nobody wants a problem. But many problems we ourselves created. Why? Due to lack of moral principle. Almost we become slave of destructive emotion, self-centered sort of attitude. And as I mentioned earlier, you see, too much emphasis, secondary level of differences. So now, in order to change that, we have to make some effort worldwide, mainly through education. As I think here, also, last few years, some scientists and some educationists, now we're already working existing secular education field, some sort of lesson about moral principle entirely through a secular way. So we are working and already carry some sort of experiment. Result quite convincing. Mainly carry these scientists and some educationists. So we are working. So perhaps I think next 1 or 2 years, I think some kind of draft of curriculum, the secular ethics, entirely based on secular way, not refer with religious sort of the thinking, religious concept, but based on scientific findings. So once that finalized or available, then here in India also, for example, the University of Delhi University, and also the other day, I also mentioned JK, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and then some other university in Meerut area. So we already sort of working, they finalize the curriculum from kindergarten level up to university level. So this, once the draft finalized, then we would like to have, a wider sort of discussion with the different sort of educationists, professors, and some scientists. We should discuss. And then some schools sort of implement that, then watch what kind of result after a few years. And definitely some benefit there, then more school, so adoptives in that. Then I think America, or I think, for example, the Canada, British Columbia. British Columbia,
Canada, right? British Columbia.
Or British Columbia, they already now decided next year, so they have some kind of law. The old school in British Columbia sort of province should teach secular ethics in all schools. So like that. So that can sort of extend. I think then a generation who gone through that kind of education, I think will be a little different. The problem is people, young age, everybody, consider human being. The children, I noticed this one time, I think in Switzerland, pathology, some children from Palestine, some children from Jewish community, they live together, play together. Young age, not much differences. Then gradually grown up, more emphasis, my community, my nation, my religion. So problems start, say, I think, beginning of modern education, right? Then gradually, the whole society, just materialistic sort of oriented sort of society. In the family or television or advertising, right? Advertising.
Advertising.
All the time talks money, 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 dollar, 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 euro, euro, like that. So then, the basic human sort of values gradually dormant. So now, education should be, at young age, these human values are very alive. Now at the time, you see more and more now talk about material values and these things. That education now must sort of provide them information in order to be healthy body and a healthy person, happy family. You should not forget these basic human values. And then explain through scientific findings. And then usually I call map of emotion, map of mind. Here, ancient Indian sort of knowledge about mind really highly advanced. So knowledge about mind in modern sort of psychology, compare Indian ancient psychology, modern psychology is like a kindergarten level. Indian psychology, highly developed. But my respected Indian brothers, sisters, a little bit neglected about these things. You too much sort of attracted about material value. Material development, highly necessary. At the same time, should not neglect about 1,000-year-old your tradition. Just because school has taken us to
Springdale School.
I just visited there. I mentioned there. And also the Jawaharlal Nehru University. I mentioned now. I always mentioning. Now, the Indian have the real opportunity, combination, 1,000-year-old rich knowledge about mind and modern education combined. Then Indian education will be something complete sort of form of education. So here, once we know this whole system of emotion, mind, then it becomes much easier to tackle these destructive emotions. Usually, you see, we just take for granted anger, hatred, jealousy, this part of our mind, and no knowledge how to tackle these things. In order to tackle, you should have clear sort of knowledge or sufficient knowledge about map of emotion. In order to take physical care, physical health, we have to know the physical different elements. Then also you see the material, such material are helpful, such material is harmful. Knowing that, then we can manage properly. So similarly, hygiene of emotion, we have to know the map of emotion. Then we can take effective hygiene of emotion. So this is one part, academic subject. It's much better have more knowledge about emotion, about mind. At least some Buddhist text, you say, categorize, I think, the main minds, or 6 main minds. Then about 50, minor minds, different emotions. Mention that. These should consider or treat it as an academic subject, not a religious thing. So as I mentioned before, Buddhism is lama sungai. Buddhism out of about 300 volumes, you see, according to the content, we can divide three parts, three categories. One, science of matters, science of mind. That's purely considered as a science. Second part, philosophy, including quantum physics. And then religion. So religion for Buddhist, nothing to do with other people. The science is universal. And the philosophy, some extent, is universal. So we already, this is start as a translation. The first book in Tibetan, we already edited. So now English translation, Hindi translation, Chinese translation, already there. Now German translation, Korean translation, Japanese translation, Mongolian translation, Russian translation. These now, many organizations or many people already showing interest. So like that. So I, sometime back, I mentioned Khazadi, Khazin Rosel Labrati, Khazin, as a Max Deula used Khaza. One school in Delhi, Kharsa, Kare. Oh, there I already mentioned, they also accept. So once this book translation available or finished, and I already promised send them, and they will some kind of adjustment according to their own classes like that. So like that. So we are making some. All this knowledge come from India. So now reintroduced in this country. Like ancient Indian treasure, Tibetan, cold climate, like ice box, or refrigerator, kept there over 1,000 years. Now reintroduced here.
Will you take one more question?
Yes.
One more.
Your Holiness, what is the best way to deal with negative emotions? Is it silence or is it dialogue? When you're angry, when you face negative emotions like anger, bitterness, is it good to be silent or is it good to have a dialogue? Because both are
dialogue, much better. A silence, I think, keep here very sort of irritated mind, outwardly smiling. Worst. And keep months, years, and really harmful for your body. Much better express. The way express more positive way, we could, isn't it? There, sometimes we need a little bit of sort of restraint, and mindfulness. Then gradually you express, but without much of provocation, like that. Then gradually, today's enemy can be best friend after some time. Okay, it's much better. As I mentioned earlier, even national interest. Confrontation, totally wrong. Talk on the human way, human approach. All human problem must solve through human way of approach, not weapon. For weapon, you see, no ability showing affection. Real change should take here, not by force. change here, the method, love, respect, sense of concern of their well-being, understand or respect their interest, then try to find mutually agreeable solution. Isn't it? You need more patience, more determination. I think that's the only way. Whether we like it or not, that's the only way, only choice. Otherwise, fight, kill, and satisfy. If you win, satisfy. Some party. That short periods of satisfaction. Then eventually you might feel regret. Peaceful ways, much better. I think that much we also have experience. Now, 55 years as a refugee, we never give up our hope, our determination, with patience. And you see, we, 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, according to some historian, 3 empires: Chinese Empire, Mongolian Empire, Tibetan Empire. Tibetan Empire, much emphasis, much involved Dharma, religion. Mongolian Empire, emphasis much military forces. The Chinese Empire, emphasis political thing, like that. So now, much changed. I think end of 9th century, Tibet disintegrated. So much changed. So now today's reality, according to today's reality, and also look, European Union, India also. Before India's independence, kingdoms, Kashmir kingdom, Hyderabad kingdom, and some other kingdoms. When you got the independent, you develop independence, union. Some Kashmir problems there, that's because of Pakistan. Otherwise, I think when I met some people in Tamil Nadu, you see, they say Tamil language is much richer than Hindi. So that kind of feeling, but doesn't matter. Still remain part of Indian Union, because you see, equal right, freedom, rule of law. So I think this kind of union, I think, never happened. During Ashoka period, I don't know how much, I don't know. So like European Union, also, in past centuries, fighting, killing each other for their own individual sovereignty. Modern Europe, now more matured, thinking, common interest. So European Union developed. One, my German, half my friend, half I consider my tutor about quantum physics. I have 2 tutors, David Bohm and von Weizsäcker, German. I learned something about quantum physics from these 2, my tutor. I usually describe my tutor, wonderful, really great professor, but a student, hopeless student. Reason, when I listen their explanation about quantum physics, while I listen, it seems I understand something. When lesson finished, nothing left here. So, hopeless student. So the von Weizsäcker in 1990s, his age also now nearly 90. Once he told me when he was young German, every German eye, French is their enemy. Similarly, French eye, German is their enemy. Now, that kind of attitude completely changed. So, spirit of European Union started, I think, mainly by German Chancellor Adenauer and French President de Gaulle, previously enemy. So now European Union, the euro, actually now competing with the dollar, isn't it? So like that. So you see people now more matured. So look, common interest. Take seriously about common interest rather than individual small interest. If may I say so, the president of Russian Federation, I think coming back interest for Russia, only Russia. Many occasions I express in Europe, many occasions, the latest one sort of Nobel laureate sort of peace meeting at Warsaw, I think 2 years ago, 1 year ago, no. Again I express, I wish NATO headquarters should shift to Moscow. Then psychologically bring together. In Russian eye, because of several decades, some sort of propaganda, in Russian eye, Western is their enemy. When my first visit Soviet Union, 1979, so the ordinary Russians, you see, they developed certain sort of attitude, Western, ready to attack Russia, Soviet Union. So Soviet Union must prepare militarily well. So they extend strengthening Warsaw Pact. Mainly out of fear, out of ignorance. I already know the Western thinking because 1973 I visited Europe, many European countries. So in the West, they fear some attack from Russia, from Warsaw Pact. In Moscow, they say, oh, Western ready to attack Russia. I think that Cold War sort of mentality is still there. So therefore, in order to remove that, Warsaw Pact, no, the NATO headquarters shift to Moscow and bring Moscow together. I think now too late. Now seems the President Putin himself is want to revive Cold War. Unrealistic. Of course, these comments are not for public, because of the publicity. I think better to keep in this fold. Isn't it? Thank you. So your question on Jingbin. This one. So like that. Thank you. I really enjoy our meeting. Thank you. Thank you. You arranged this opportunity. And also you give me opportunity meeting my old friend. Reunion. Recently one night in Japan, or 2 nights, where? Or 1 night in Japan. So I just to say, recall our meeting.